They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want to.
And for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
It is no news that corruption has destructive consequences for any society where it finds a foothold. Over the years, it has been given different definitions and placed under two major categories, namely grand and petty corruption. However, it seems corruption researchers have added a new category termed quiet corruption. Yes, you heard me right, quiet corruption. What is quiet corruption? How does it affect the society? This will be our area of focus in this week's edition of the program. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am Hawa Garba. Did you know Section 22, Subsection 3 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 states that any public officer who in the course of his official duties inflates the price of any goods or service above the prevailing market price shall be guilty of an offense and liable to 7 years imprisonment? Mr. Shogunle Ebenezer of our legal department will explain further in our segment on Know the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. Also on today's edition, we will bring you drama, infographics, and the latest stories on anti-corruption. First, Joy Aja is on standby to bring you updates on happenings in the anti-corruption scene.
Thank you for tuning in. I am Joy Aja with Anti-Corruption Stories. ICPC has arraigned a civil servant with the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, Mr. Lebi Ayodele James, before Honorable Justice Yusuf Haliru of High Court 32 of FCT on a 3-count charge bordering on false statements and forgery. The charge sheet revealed that Ayodele, being a public officer in the Auditor General's office, knowingly made a false statement to the Director of Administration and Human Resources of the same office when he wrote an application requesting to be converted and upgraded from the position of an executive officer to that of a senior auditor, and presented a fake certificate of membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN. The accused person pleaded not guilty to all the charges preferred against him. In his ruling, the trial judge granted bail to the accused and ordered him to produce 2 officers not below the rank of director with ownership of title property document within FCT and evidence of their promotion to the rank of directorship. The matter was then adjourned to 26 March 2018 for hearing. A Lagos State High Court sitting in Ikeja has sentenced a police officer, Mrs. Ngozi Onwuka, to 3 months imprisonment over visa fraud. Onwuka was charged before Honorable Justice Mojisola Dada by ICPC on a 1-count charge bordering on making false statements to a constituted authority. The court was told that the convict presented a false bank statement of account to the consular and visa officer of the British High Commission in Nigeria with the intent to mislead the High Commission into issuing her a travel visa to United Kingdom. Counsel to the convict, Mr. C. Ubani, pleaded with the court to show mercy to her, saying she was a first-time offender and had cooperated fully with the prosecution. Justice Dada, in his ruling, sentenced her to 3 months imprisonment. The Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Health, Mr. Osarenoma Clement Uwaifo, has called on all officers and staff of the ministry to cooperate with its Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit, ACTU, in order to eradicate corruption in the ministry. Mr. Uwaifo made the call during the inauguration and induction of members of the ministry's ACTU recently. He urged staff of the ministry to work with the members of the ACTU to help them ensure corruption-free processes in the workings of the ministry. In his remarks, Assistant Commissioner Mr. Justin Kwatsier of the Corruption Monitoring and Evaluation Department of ICPC, who represented the Commission at the event, said the Ministry of Health plays a vital role in formulating and implementing policies that are geared towards strengthening the nation's health system, and as such, it has an important duty to organize and direct its staff towards understanding their duties and responsibilities to the management of human health. In his acceptance speech, the acting chairman of the ministry, Mr. Evans Udekanem, gave the assurance that his team would uphold the virtues of transparency, probity, and sincerity in the discharge of their duties. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues. Stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Hi. We are here for registration.
Can I have your number, please? 49. Number 2 just left my office now.
So,
It is number 3 Stone.
are you saying I have to be on the queue? Do you know who you're talking to?
Our policy says we should queue. Madam, it is high time we started doing things right in this country. Next, please. Turn around.
Mr. Brief, you really need this money for a new pair of shoes.
That notwithstanding, I shall not be bribed. This is corruption, not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
Inflation of prices of goods and services is one of the notorious instances of procurement fraud and corrupt practices that is highly prohibited under Section 22, subsection 3 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. In fact, we have investigated and prosecuted many instances of this. It occurs mostly where public officers who are charged with responsibility to make direct purchases or direct procurement on behalf of government agencies decide to inflate the prices of the goods or services which they have been required to procure. Some of the instances where this has occurred from some of the investigations we have carried out includes purchases of office stationery and equipment, computers, renting of office accommodation, purchase of project vehicles, and so on and so forth. In fact, I recall a very notorious instance where an officer was charged with the responsibility of procuring tents, canopies, and chairs to host a reception, a public reception for a top government official. And in the course of doing that, he decided, for example, to inflate the costs of the chairs, of the rentage of the chairs, to inflate the cost of even feeding some of the artists and the traditional dancers that were procured for the event. Of course, when some of them got to know that this is what has happened, they petitioned, and this was investigated, and the officer concerned was arrested and was prosecuted. The Act provides a punishment of 7 years in prison and a fine of 1 million naira for anybody who is found culpable of indulging in some of these unwholesome practices. So it is our hope that with greater awareness, public officers will beware as not to allow themselves to be caught in the web of or the temptation to want to unduly increase or to inflate the prices of goods and services above the prevailing market rate or the professional standards. These are things that are very easily discernible, and investigators have been trained to ascertain the real prices of some of these goods. And unfortunately, the few people or the very many people that have been caught in this process are at the moment facing the music.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go. Now to our area of focus. What is quiet corruption? According to a recent report by the World Bank in its report on Africa Development Indicators, quiet corruption is described as the failure on the part of public servants to deliver goods or services paid for by government. Quiet corruption, according to the report, although pervasive and widespread across Africa, is smaller in monetary terms, while being particularly harmful to the poor, who are more vulnerable and rely on government services and public systems to satisfy their most basic needs. Our Corruption Must Go crew spoke with the Secretary to the Board of ICPC, Dr. Musa Usman Abubakar, who speaks on the matter.
Actually, quiet corruption is a new, concept of, corruption that was identified by the World Bank recently to be one of the most devastating, forms of corruption that, government doesn't really, pay attention to it, but it's about the most dangerous of all forms of corruptions we are talking about. People are used to, grand corruption, petty corruption, and what have you. Actually, this one, it doesn't involve, exchange of money from an individual to, another, and it is also not much of an elitist nature. It's not, committed mostly by elites. It is, the type of corruption that has to do with failure to deliver services, paid for by government, by what we call frontline service providers, that is public servants that are, doing services like teaching. Maybe engineers, site engineering and what have you, doctors, and quiet corruption manifests itself in many ways. One of them is absenteeism from work. So imagine, a teacher that is paid to, teach students or to lecture, students, and he decides not to attend classes. At the end of the day, the children will ultimately be, maybe certified as qualified, maybe as doctors or what have you. But at the end of the day, they will, be the people to provide services to the community, to the society as a whole. So imagine somebody who is not taught anything because the person supposed to teach them having been paid, but refuses to attend classes. So at the end of the day, we produce half-baked, people to service the society as a whole, where you have half-baked, medical doctors. Ultimately, the society will experience things like misdiagnosis. In many cases you hear about people dying in hospital for a simple element because of professional negligence on the part of doctors. But we don't really look at it from the point of view of corruption, from the way that doctor himself was brought up. He was perhaps he was not properly taught. We've been hearing about building collapse. Building collapse. This is very common in many places, and if you are to ask yourself, how comes all these things are happening? If you dig deep, you realize that maybe the person inspecting that place must have paid for his certificate because he was not actually, taught, the proper way of, inspecting, buildings like that. So this is in short what it means by quiet corruption. I mean, failure to provide services by frontline service providers, having been paid by government. Actually, as I said earlier, I mean, being the most devastating form of corruption, quiet corruption affects society generally, because it helps in producing half-baked professionals. You imagine, a teacher not attending classes, or, putting less effort, than expected. He's supposed to maybe say enter lectures for 11 good weeks for a semester, only for him to attend maybe twice, maybe toward the end of the semester, just for the student to pass exams. At the end of the day, the society will end up getting half-baked professionals. And mark you, these people are the people to service the society in the near future. They by then we must have retired. They are coming, and they are so ultimately, what they learn from that teacher is what they are also going to impart, to the next generation, and it goes. So it's like a vicious cycle. So this is one of the effect it has on the society. Loss of valuable assets. Valuable assets. By valuable asset, I mean both. Material. For instance, buildings, building collapse, as I gave example earlier. By producing half-baked professionals, naturally you expect them to pass things that are not supposed to be passed. At the end of the day, government and the society as a whole will lose a lot of material resources. Potential leaders will also lose many potential leaders through that. For instance, a medical doctor who mistakenly maybe administer a drug on a patient, and that person dies, prematurely. If he had survived, the society would have benefited from him. Only God knows. Maybe he may even be an inventor of some things. But because of our failure to provide the services we are supposed to provide, then that could actually, cause problems to society. So these are some of the effects quiet corruption has on the society in general. We may say government will have some things to do. On the one side, the society as a whole, also, people in society have a role to play also in ensuring that, this phenomenon of quiet corruption is minimized. One, for government, it is high time government raises the consciousness of, the society, the people in the society, to appreciate the fact that reporting people that don't, maybe attend to their, duties, or that provide lesser services than expected of them is very, very important. So government should conscientize, the society to appreciate the fact that failure to provide or to report such things could be very, very devastating to the whole society.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome, sir.
Hello. I need a room.
You say?
I need a room.
Hi. Okay, we don't get room again. All of them don't be booked.
Well, of all my toiling around, I need a room to rest my head.
All the rooms are booked, sir.
Well, all right, okay.
What's going on here?
Nothing, ma'am.
Nothing. But I heard you say to that man that there are no more rooms.
Madam, no more rooms, ma'am.
But we still have 2 rooms left.
Madam, now so we're going to donate room anyhow. No, we'll get one, we'll use 2 PP for our pocket.
Are we not in business?
Madam, now our business BT.
This is corruption. Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
Quiet corruption must not be allowed to thrive because of its damaging effect on the society. With quiet corruption, service paid for by government for the benefit of the citizens is not delivered. A child denied proper education because of absentee teachers will suffer in adulthood with low cognitive skills. The absence of drugs and doctors means unwarranted deaths from malaria and other diseases. Farmers who receive diluted fertilizers may choose to stop using them altogether, leaving them with low agricultural yields. Yet, the public officials responsible for providing these services go home with fat paychecks. That's our package on this week's edition. Report any act of corruption taking place around you. Call us on our toll-free number 0800-CALL-ICPC. You can also watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. Thank you for staying with us. I am Hawa Garba saying bye for now.